All right, today's guest is someone I know actually really, really well, not just as a fighter, but as a man on a journey. Sean Bruce is the current British Flyweight Champion, but titles only really tell a small part of the story that we want to go through today. So I've had the privilege of seeing the work behind the scenes, the early morning runs, obviously from watching your posts on Instagram, the brutal hill sprints and pad sessions with your coach, Rendell, the strength and conditioning work with what I call the Gym Reaper, Harry Singh, the trips to Las Vegas where you trained and sparred at Mayweather, Fight Capital with Coach King, and more recently, the warm weather camp out in Marbella. I often say it's where the belts are won long before they ever reach your shelf, like we've got one on the shelf today. What I've always respected about Sean is that he's not just thinking about the next fight. He's thinking about the long game, the career, the business, the life after boxing, as well as. So today I want to talk about the mindset of a champion, the sacrifices that people don't see, and what it really takes to build a career in what I believe is one of the toughest sports in the world. So Sean Bruce, the new British Flyweight Champion, number 573. Welcome to the Time, Team and Money podcast.
Thanks for having me, mate.
You are welcome. I want to get right into this, Sean, because I've got loads that I want to cover today, because people see boxers win belts, okay? But they don't see the years before it, the years leading up to it. So I want you to take us all the way back to the beginning. When did you first realize that boxing might become your life?
Wow. God, yeah. So going back right to the start, I must have been, I don't know, 10 years old, and I watched I think it was the first Rocky film around my cousin's house, and I just remember seeing him like get knocked down, and he fought back and got up, and I was just like, wow, like that to me was like a superhero, you know. People, obviously I had superheroes growing up and people you looked up to, but when I saw that Rocky film, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I remember I went down to a gym in Wigston, and there were trees coming through the roof, and the boxing ring was right next to this brick wall. So whenever you were sparring, if you got hit next to that, your head's bouncing off the wall. It was a proper like old school spit and sawdust gym. The bags were rock hard. And I'll always remember hitting the bag for the first time and just the feel of it and the leather and the smell. Anyone that's boxed or been in a boxing gym will know what I'm talking about. It's got that kind of that smell that you don't get anywhere else. And I just fell in love from a young age. I remember sparring for the first time, and it wasn't long before. I mean, when I first started sparring, it wasn't too long after that they'd start chucking in 2 or 3 lads at the same time to spar with me in one go, because one wasn't enough. And this was when I was sort of 10 years old, and I was putting lads over. And then I had my first sort of unlicensed fight in the Starlight in Leicester. And I always remember that. My dad did my corner, and he was giving me orange squash between the rounds, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. I was only a kid. And then I had another unlicensed fight in, I can't remember the name of the club, but I had the fight and I got out the ring, and I always remember my dad saying, "Oh, Rendell Monroe's over there." And he was like, "Get him to sign your glove for you." So I took my glove off and I went over and I was like, "Hi, can you just sign this for me?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." And little red Everlast glove, and he signed it, and he put "Sky's the limit, Rendell Monroe." And at the time, I only had one pair of boxing gloves, so I carried on using them, and the signature worn off. But those gloves I had for a good few years. And then it's crazy because, you know, you fast forward 15 years, and Rendell was the man that's brought me all the way to the British title. So yeah, it's been a crazy journey, but yeah, that's where it all started for me, in that little gym at the end of a park with trees going through the roof. That's where the dream started, I suppose. And it's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs since then. The path has changed. I've come off the path a lot, and it's been a very windy road to get here.
I want to get into some of that in
Yeah.
a second, but just picking up on something you said there, to Rendell on that moment, he's wrote "Sky's the limit," but he probably wrote "Sky's the limit" to most people. But for certain people who've got like idols or whatever, you hear that as if it was talking directly to you. So you've mentioned that several times. So when he wrote that, it must have really just went into your brain, like "Sky's the limit."
Yeah, I think maybe subconsciously. I think growing up, I was always like a visual learner. So I'd watch old fights and I'd watch boxers and I'd try and copy them in a way. When I first went to my amateur gym, El Shilton, I'd always go in the gym into a training session thinking, right, tonight I'm going to be a bit like Ricky Hatton, or I'm going to be a bit like Joe Calzaghe.
What fighters they were.
Yeah. So, and I'd always try and sort of emulate them in my own little way. And that, like I say, they were the fighters I sort of looked up to, and obviously Rendell as well. And yeah, I remember going to El Shilton and I got beat up for my first probably 6 months to a year. And then all of a sudden I started beating people up and getting better and better, and I just stuck at it. And then, yeah, I had 6, I think I won my first 2 or 3, lost 1, and then I won my first Midlands title as an amateur. And I was just coming from the college today. One thing I said was, I never won a national title as an amateur, and it was something that always ate away at me in the back of my head, thinking.
At the time or after you got too old for it?
So in the amateurs, I won the Midlands title. Then I was in an era where there was a lot of good fighters coming through, and I boxed the likes of Liam Davis, Andrew Kane, who obviously gone on to win Liam Davis world champion, Kieran Conway, British champion. So there was a crop of lads there, and I'd always come up against it in the nationals, and just fell short of a national title. And it was something that I always wanted. And I remember thinking, like, one day, if I was, the dream, if I could ever get the chance to box for the British title, that would be the ultimate dream. And I'll never forget the night of the fight, the British title fight. You said to me just before the ring walk, if you could give that kid one chance, just one chance, you'd take it. And that just flicked a switch. And I was like, right, let's go.
So moving into, like, away from being a kid and that aspiration to get to the British title to where you are now, you've trained in some serious places that I know of, Vegas, Marbella, top gyms around the UK, as well as Rendell's. There's other top gyms around the UK that you've been part of. What was the moment where you realised this is the level now?
I think more so from the sparring than anything, mixing it with good lads. I mean, even when I think that the first turning point for me was when I sparred with Rendell. When I went into the gym and I did a few rounds with him, because at the time, like, I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't really believe I could do anything. I was coming off a bit of a break from boxing and kind of just dipping my toe into it a bit. And it wasn't until he turned around to me and he was like, "Mate, you're very good." And I was like, "Yeah, do you think?" And he was like, "Honestly, just trust me, you're good. Like, let's give this a go." And you kind of like, at the time I was like, okay, that's pretty cool that he thinks I'm decent. But it's one thing, like, someone telling you something and then truly believing it in yourself. And I think over the past few years, my belief has come from building the trust in myself of, like, yeah, you know what, I'm actually good. Like, I can do this. and it's come from a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice. And yeah, now I'm at the point where I do truly believe in myself, but it's not happened overnight. It's been a lot of hard work, and it's about building, or maybe even unlearning self-doubt. I never really believed in myself, 5-6 years ago. So it's about stacking that belief in me, that proving to myself that I can do it. Winning the Midlands title as a pro was the first sort of feather in the cap with me. I thought, yeah, you know what, I can do this. I can compete at a high level. And it's just been a journey of, like I say, ups and downs. And I'm grateful that I've got, great team around me, great people around me that have believed in me and got me to where we're at now. So,
but if I put you into the corner, if I had you in the corner and you pick one moment where if you could look back now and go, this is the level, like you sort of felt it to yourself. Because you said sparring, you said the sparring with Rendell. It might have been something he said, but is there anything that stands out?
I think as well, like when we went to Vegas was a big turning point for me. Not necessarily in like the training we were doing. It was more the conversations we were having. To just dream bigger than what I originally thought was possible. And I spoke to the students today at the college, Tamworth Boxing College, about this. And like, when I wasn't boxing, when I had those few years away from boxing and going down different paths that I probably shouldn't have been going down, I was looking at pro boxers with titles, thinking like, wow, that's pretty cool, but that could never be me. And I just kind of like brushed it aside, like, yeah, that could never be me. Like, if I turn pro, what would be the point, And it wasn't till, like I say, I met Rendell and started having conversations with people and building that belief in myself that I thought I could do it. And it's only until recently that I thought winning the British title would be possible,
Sure. It's only when it's on your shoulder that you actually realise that you've won it.
Yeah.
Like you said, your head spins a little bit and it's like, has this really happened? Like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and it's gone and it was just a dream. Yeah. What's a normal training day actually look like for a British champion? Because I'm sure people have got preconceived ideas, as you might have had before you was a British champion. I think people probably massively underestimate the work, but what does a normal training day actually look like? Because you're a professional boxer, but it's not a full-time thing for you. So what does a day look like for you? You're training as a British champion.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved over the last few years. When I first turned pro, it was just train non-stop. Didn't really understand rest, nutrition, everything, all the little bits that go into it. So it's kind of been learning on the job, really. But a typical day, I'd say, is 5:30, 6 in the morning, sometimes earlier. I'll get up, either run, or I'll be with Harry, or I'll be doing shadow boxing. There'll always be a session in the morning, and then work. I'll work sort of 8 till about 5 o'clock, and then from there it's back straight to training. So it's tough. I can't sit here and say it's not. It's a lot, because of working full time and being a professional boxer is essentially another full-time job. So balancing the two is challenging, and I get it in the neck a lot because obviously I'm not at home much at all, really. So yeah, it's tough, but I've made it work. I've got to this stage, and just grateful for everyone that's helped me do it, because it's not an individual sport, boxing. As much as I'm the one getting up in the mornings and doing the hard runs and eating the right food and making weight and putting all the work in. It's very much a team effort. Yourself, my other sponsors, Harry, Rendell, even Ella, all supporting me. It's been very much a team effort to get that Lonsdale belt on the table.
It's interesting because my next question really was going to be that boxing is one of the few sports where it's just you in the ring. You've got like MMA as well, boxing, just you in the ring. No teammates to hide behind when that bell goes. How do you manage that pressure? I know you've got a great team around you, but when that bell rings, it's just you against everything, all your thoughts, doubts, beliefs, the opponent and all of their doubts, beliefs and everything as well. How do you manage that pressure?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I look back now to my debut, and I didn't sleep for 2 nights before my debut because I didn't really believe I was good enough to do it. But like I say, I've built myself to. I've proved to myself that I am who I say I am and who I think I am over time through hard work, through results. And yeah, like I say, it's been far from easy, but yeah, we've made it work, and it's obviously when the bell goes, like you say, you're on your own in there. There's the team will help you get there. The team will help you get you. Harry will help me get ready. He's taken me to some very, very dark places over the last few years that I'm grateful for. I think if it wasn't for Harry taking me to those dark places in training, because he always says to me, like, you've got to find a way. No matter how hard it gets in there, you have to find a way. And that's not just training me physically, but it's mentally as well. That being able to push through when it's difficult. And I think for me, when that bell goes, I know that I've done everything I can in my power to be the best I can on the night. So what will be, will be. Let's just go in there, give it 100%, and what will be, will be. But, I've put in all the work, and I believe in myself now, and things are only going to get better from here. This isn't, yes, growing up, the British title was a dream of mine, but now we've got it. This is the start,
It's interesting. You're managing the pressure by, how it sounds to me, is you're managing the pressure by being more prepared than you feel that you need to be. Yeah. And obviously trusting the process, or whatever the cliche may be. I just want to go back a second, because I was thinking, it's just been, as you're answering that question, I'm drifting off because I'm thinking about the previous thing that you were saying about boxing being a second full-time job. But in many ways, and I'm big on mindset, but in many ways you've got a full-time job, a full-time sporting career, you've got a full-time relationship at home, and then you've got to have time for Sean as well. So it's almost like running these 4 full-time things through your head and filtering that through your head, which is why I think mindset's so powerful. And every fighter talks about discipline, because I think that's one key thing here. But what does discipline actually mean to you on a day-to-day basis?
Discipline to me on a day-to-day basis is doing the things that are going to get you to where you want to go when no one's watching. So it's eating the right food when no one's around. It's doing the runs that you don't want to do when you wake up and your brain goes, nah, not today.
I know that's every day, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Most days. Some days I wake up and I'm like, let's get after it. Other days you wake up and you think, I don't want to quite do that. And I was having this conversation with Ella the other day, and I was saying, like, because I'm very much a 1%, so I'll look at like how can I improve in each area. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my approach to fights, my approach to my training, my approach to sleep, nutrition, everything. And I was saying to her, like, doing all this, I often think, how much of a difference does it make? And she was like, well, it's got you this far, so it must be doing something. And I think having that mindset of I need to get things how can I improve each little thing? Has got me to here. So why can't it get me onto bigger things from here?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's essentially for me. It comes down to when no one's watching, when there's no cameras on you. Are you building that trust in yourself, or are you giving in and saying
That's how you manage the pressure.
Yeah,
It's how you manage the pressure. And I hadn't really thought about it until we'd started talking today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you manage the pressure by knowing that you did the work.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's like
it's not
round
pressure
10.
if you've done the work.
Exactly. It's like round 10 when it's difficult in there and your arms and your legs want to give up, but you know that you've built that trust in yourself to say, okay, I'm in pain now, but yeah, I'll get through it.
Sure.
I've done it before. I'll get through it.
You've experienced all that fatigue in the gym, and then Harry barking in your ear saying, "Go, keep going, find a way, find a way
through."
And you don't have to hear the voice, but it's in there, and it's planted in there. Like all the negative stuffs can be planted in there as well, without you realizing. Along the way. So just going into the business of boxing for a second, because this is a business podcast as well as it's high performance, but it is really about business. One thing that we've spoken about a lot is treating your career like a business as well as a sport. How important is that for fighters? I'm going to say today because we've only got today. We can't go back on the past, but how important is fighters seeing this as a business from day one? I know this was quite new to you to look at it, a couple of years back, but how important is that for fighters today to see this as a business as much as a sport?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the promoters, the managers, it's a business to them, so it needs to be a business to the boxer as well. Boxing starts off as a passion or a hobby or whatever you want to call it. You achieve things, you win titles, but ultimately there's life after boxing, and boxing is a short career, really, in the grand scheme of things. It's a very, very short career, so you've got to be wise with it. You've got to think about what you're doing outside the ring and where you're going with it, and it's a dangerous game. I had a lot of the kids today asking me about it, or when was the optimal age to turn pro and all this sort of stuff. And I said, look, don't rush it. Don't rush it. Stay amateurs for as long as you can. Build a bit of a following. And then when you feel like you're ready, even then, really think about it, because it's a tough game. It's a man's game. And you can't go into it, you can't just dip your toe in. You need to go into it full steam ahead, and you need to have a good plan, I think. And again, this is something that I've learned on the job, really. I've took, to get here, it's took a lot of risks. It's paid off now, but looking back, some didn't pay off, some paid off. It's so taking risks is key. But now for me, it's about calculated risks.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're saying boxing's a short career, and people talk about it being a short career and say there's only 15 years in the game or whatever. But the reality is sometimes there's only 6 months. Because when we was in Vegas, and I was saying to the business owners, you got 20 years, you can dick around for 20 years and then decide to pull your big boy pants on and make this work. But for Sean, he gets this wrong over the next 12 months, and that's could be, curtains in terms of a career. So that's how short I believe the career can be. If you get 12 months wrong on the plan, that's it's going to really affect you. But some fighters only really think about the next fight. You've been thinking about the career as a full career from the time that I've known you. What's the difference between those two mindsets? Because I'm sure you've had both. One point it was just the next fight, like not sleeping for 2 days before you debut, to now you're talking about, you're actually teaching people, mentoring these kids and saying, take your time. I heard Barry McGuigan and Josh Taylor and Dalton Smith saying these things to you, and now you're passing that wisdom on to other people, clearly, straight away. So what's the difference between the two mindsets of thinking about just the next fight and then thinking about how the next fight sets up the rest of the career?
Yeah, it's like I say, I remember saying that in Vegas actually about like, oh, what's the 5-year plan? Da, da, da. And I was sort of saying the 5-year plan isn't a 5-year plan if I don't win the next 6 months. Do you know what I mean? I've got to, but even then, it's like, how do I win the next 6 months? Well, I've got to do these things throughout the next week. How do I win the week? Win the day. How do I win the day? Do you know what I mean? And it all spirals back to those small decisions and those small disciplines that you make day in, day out, that pile up over time and get you to where you need to go. And yeah, it's kind of it's a bit of a minefield really, because you got to think about obviously the long game, like where's the career going, what are we doing, but ultimately, you know, that isn't a thing unless you keep winning. That's the harsh reality of it is, you know, if you don't win, you know, that's it. So
it's like snakes and ladders, isn't it? Like
snakes and ladders.
You lose and
you're losing your back.
You
back
drop down 10 levels and you win and you go up one. You know, so one step forward, 10 steps back. If you get the preparation wrong, or the promoter or the matchmaker picks the wrong opponent and stuff, because you know, for people that, same as business, right? You pick the wrong client and then you're only as good as your last client. You pick the wrong opponent and that opponent can make you look bad, even though on paper you should, you know, records wise you should beat them. So that's is key as you're developing and growing because this is becoming Sean Bruce the business now. It's not just Sean Bruce the boxer. And all those cogs in the team just have to be making the right decisions and have to be on board with it as well, and not being lazy around those things. What's the toughest moment you've had in your career so far, would you say?
Toughest moment has got to be Gibraltar. So obviously, as you know, we got a call to box for the Commonwealth title, 4 weeks notice in Gibraltar. Wow, I said to Carl, texting back straight away. I said, mate, let's do it. Like, no way I'm turning this down. Locked in, trained hard, made weight, flew all the way out there. And I remember saying to Rendell before the ring walk, literally like 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to go, I said, mate, this is meant to be. And then I'll never forget Carl walking in and he's just shaking his head. I didn't really think anything of it because, you know, I just thought, oh, he's probably...
You're in the zone.
Lost his phone, I don't know. And he's walked up to me and I had my headphones in and he went to say something and I said, sorry. And then he went, it's off, mate. And I looked at him like, eh? And I went to turn around and he went, no, Sean, it's off. And I was like, what? And I didn't really register. It was a weird feeling. And he was like, yeah, he's fell over. Like he's done his knees. It's off. And I was just like, wow. And I've sat down and you got to bear in mind, there's people flew out there to watch me fight. Everyone's watching from home. Commonwealth title, massive opportunity. And it's just slipped away like that through my fingers. And, you know, we left the venue and I was just devastated. And then got back to the hotel room that night. After all that effort, you know, and I said to Ella, I said, I'm done with this. I said, what is the point? What is the point? And she's very clever with her words, Ella. She knows when to say things at the right time. She knows me better than I know myself. And she just said, that would be a real shame if you walk away now. And I was like, yeah. Okay. And then, come home.
Flight got delayed.
We didn't fly until Monday. The drive, but oh my gosh, yeah, that was tough. That was tough to brush myself off after that, and then go straight back into another training camp against a world level amateur in Matt McKay and go up to Glasgow and fight. It was hard. It was hard to brush that off and then go back into that training camp, and then, you know, that was a very, very difficult period. But looking back now, that period made me, you know.
Sure.
It built me. So it was, like I say, it was all this title there that represents, like I say, hard work, but it represents to me more than anything is bouncing back from hard times, from losses, getting knocked down, just like in that first Rocky film I seen, getting off the floor, you know.
Mentally getting off the floor.
This is it. Right? So with Gibraltar, it was about mentally getting off the floor, which was, and I felt like the ground was swallowing me up at the time. It really did. It was a tough period, but you know, and then physically I've had to get off the floor in my last, you know, 4 of my last fights. I've had to get off the floor numerous times. So, that title to me represents, you know, that I've got through it. You know what I mean? I've got up when I didn't need to.
Such a powerful message for people following behind you as well. I remember, I think we exchanged some messages when you was in Gibraltar, and I was like, "Oh, it's God's plan."
Yeah.
And you was like, "Don't feel like it at the moment," and it was like, and then once you win the British title, and I go, "See, I told you it was the plan." But it's easy to say that with the benefit of wisdom and going through all ups and downs in life yourself.
Yeah.
And realizing that something good always comes out of something bad, more often than not, if you're prepared to keep driving forward, you know, in life, which you clearly were.
Yeah.
But I guess Ella was, you know, a catalyst really with those words in that moment, because I understand that relationship with a partner, with a life partner. I also understand your relationship with Ella. I'm pretty sure if she would agreed with you in that moment, you probably would have wrapped it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You were looking for that bit of encouragement, because I should imagine there's a bit of embarrassment there because everyone's flew out, and you're like, even though it's not on you, you know, they was there for you. So I can imagine that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
When you walked in I was, you know, filming and stuff when we was at the York Hall, and I was your unofficial cameraman for the weekend because Lexi weren't around for that one, but she will be for the future ones. But I remember just crouching down, and you came out for the ring walk, and then they sent you back because the music wasn't ready. I remember crouching down and recording it, and I just seen you come out, and you was sort of like super confident, went over, you know, fist bumping. Actually, your opponent's fans were there, and you was like fist bumping them as you went by. And I've seen you in different ring walks, not like as relaxed. That was relaxed more than confident. I've seen you confident, but that felt like relaxed confidence, for want of a better way of putting it. When you walk into the ring in general, what's actually going through your head in that moment? You can use the last fight as an example, or just in general, if anything comes to mind. What goes through your head as you're making that? This is the first point where you've gone from all the team there. You know, we was upstairs in the York Hall, and I said to Carl, you know, respect for the opportunity for Sean. I've seen him in camp. He's going to take this opportunity. I can just tell. And you got all the team there patting you on the back and walking out. And then from that moment, everyone disappears and it's just you. What goes through your head from that point to getting in through those ropes?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a lot of the time, it's just clear. You know, it's something that's evolved fight by fight. But that last fight, and it almost felt like something out of a movie, because we left the changing rooms and it was just that long, dark, pitch black corridor. No lights, no noise, nothing. And it's a long walk. And I think you find out a lot about yourself on that walk. But for me, I was just so calm that I could almost see myself walking to the ring. I just felt like it was all meant to be. And again, I think that comes down to the work that I put in, not just physically, but mentally, getting myself ready, get myself in a mind frame of, this is it. There's just no way. And I said to you before, there's not a flicker of doubt that I'm not going to win. And there wasn't one Because in previous fights, I've had it where like, you know, a bit of doubt would creep in the last minute, or you'd have a little thought thinking, could I have done more? Should I have done?
Talk to me. Talk to me about that. Because
Yeah,
I
so,
think that's the key bit. Like, what is those little flicker of doubt? How far out?
I think
What is it?
It's just like you just the brain naturally just goes like thinks of the worst. Like, oh, what if I get knocked out? What if I get? Do you know what I mean? But for me now, I've been through that.
But do you start when that doubt comes in? Are you thinking about you or thinking about the opponent at that moment? Because this is the same for any business.
I think you know what, with the doubt, I think it comes from thinking about the outcome. Like, what's the worst case? What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Too far into the future,
Yeah.
like thinking past the fight.
Yeah, you're thinking too far into it. And my best performances when I go back to Derby when I won the Midlands title, and my last fight, and Northampton as well was up there, defending the Midlands. Each of those fights, the one thing they all had in common was just being present and not thinking about the end result. It's like when I won the British title, that Lonsdale belt didn't come into my head until I turned around and he's gone to hand me the belt. Up until that point, all I'm thinking about is this next round, this next minute. How do I navigate this round? And it's just taking it round by round, not overthinking it, not overcomplicating it, not thinking, right, this is the British title, this is the biggest moment of my life. Everyone's watching, my family, you know what I mean? Because if you start thinking like that, you just freeze up.
Sure.
So for me, it was just about listening to, you know, Rendell, your words of wisdom, and just being in that flow of, I've built the trust in myself. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be present. These are the cues that I need to keep repeating in my head that I'm going to go into the round with, and just visualizing the first minute of the round. And yeah, like I say, just being present with it and not thinking too far ahead. Because as soon as I remember I sparred in Devon, this was a long time ago, against with a lad called Paul Roberts, really nice guy, Southern Area champion. And I said to him, like, have you got any advice for me? Like, I've got my first 10 rounder coming up. And he was just like, look, yes, you've got 10 rounds, but you've got to win the rounds. So don't worry about round 9, round 10. Worry about the next round. And that always stayed with me. And yeah, it's just about taking it round by round, which can be applied to anything, you know. I suppose in business, you know, you're thinking about the next day, then the next day, and the next week. Obviously, yes, you're going to have a plan, but ultimately you need to think about, you know, what's at the forefront, what's the next thing.
Everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face. The old Mike Tyson
smacked up.
quote, isn't it? So you're, you know, being British champion now, champions always want more. You know, when I say champions, that's just somebody who's hungry for the next thing. What's the vision from here for you?
Yeah, do you know what? I've only really, like, the last few days when everything's sort of got clearer and I've caught up on sleep, and obviously that's the big question, you know, what's next? That's what everyone was asking today at the college and stuff, you know, what's your plan next? And my response to that to the kids was, well, 5 years ago, I didn't even think I was good enough to turn professional, let alone win a British title. And now I'm at the stage where I've won the British title, and there's absolutely no reason. And me and Dalton Smith were having this conversation at the weekend, and I said to him, like, mate, I can't believe I'm British champion. And he was like, mate, I can't believe I'm world champion. You know, you get your head down, you work away, and it happens, you know. Set yourself little goals, keep working away, and eventually you look up and you're like, wow, I did it.
I did that, yeah.
So for me now, yes, I've won the British title, but if I can replicate the hard work, the dedication, the sacrifice that I've done in the last 5 years again, who's to say I'm not going to be world champion in 5 years, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a realistic possibility. Just going back a second, there's a funny moment when you won the British title, and you was talking about how much you'd wanted that, like it was a dream for you to win it from when you watched Rocky when you was 10 years old. And I remember, it's on the video, and they're trying to hand you the belt, and I had to turn you around and go, Sean, and point you towards it. After all that time, you've been wanting to get your hands on it. Someone had to turn you around to make sure that you went and collected it. I guess that was just a bit of a surreal feeling. So you've been speaking to the kids this week, going out, running around, showing the belt off, inspiring people. Again, just another, because now you're also like a promotional machine and a full-time employed and a full-time boxer and a husband and Sean as well, being yourself, which is something that I really pressed hard on you last week, to just think about yourself, just be present. That was really the message. Yeah. Be present and think about you. If a young kid listens to this, and I hope that they do at some point, and they want to become a champion one day, what would you tell them they need to understand about boxing to be a champion?
I'd say there's a few things, but the first thing that comes is you've got to be prepared to sacrifice a lot. It's not necessarily what you do. Yes, you've got to train hard. Yes, you've got to eat right, but it comes down to like what you're also not doing. Do you know what I mean? It's, you're not going out, you're not drinking, you're not doing all this. You're dedicating yourself to the sport. You can't just dip a toe and think, oh yeah, I'll give it a try. Boxing's a brutal sport. It's not a game. It's not darts. When you're just throwing stuff at a board, you get taking punches to the head. So
you get more money for darts, though.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah, maybe I should have gone down that route. Got a bit of a belly on me, but yeah, it's a tough game, and like you've got to be prepared to give up a lot, because you can't play at it. You can't play at it. At the end of the day, you're getting in there with little oven mitts on, and you're having a fight with someone for 36 minutes. And your life's on the line at the end of the day, a lot of people go into fights and they don't come out the same. So you can't play at it. And it sounds extreme, but it is an extreme sport at the end of the day. So you have to approach it with that same mindset of, I'm not going to cut corners. I'm not going to, because you're only cheating yourself. And for me, yeah, it's all about, I think being a champion now is all about sacrifice and just dedicating yourself to it 100%.
And you hear that a lot, don't you? Like you have to sacrifice something for it. But if you really want it, it's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It depends on, how you feel about the thing that you're giving up, I suppose. But when you sit there with the belt, it's easy, I suppose, to look back and go, the sacrifice was all worth it. But there's a lot of people, I guess, that are going to commit to careers where they don't actually achieve what they wanted to achieve, even with the sacrifices. You're only the 573rd British champion in, what did we work it out, 116 years?
Yeah.
It's not that many over that period of time. So what did we say? Was it like 4.9 or something per year that ever become British champion across all of the weight categories? So I think it's a special achievement. But I think the big message from me is, if you can do it, why can't someone else? If you can win the British title, 5 years learning on the job, literally learning on the job about who you are, about how you are under pressure, about how you set out your stall for the next fight, about how you bounce back from someone slipping over 10 minutes before a fight starts. All of these things, if you can bounce back from that to become a British champion, then becoming a world champion arguably is easier, right? I would say to people in business, if you've got this far from a standing start, surely the next bit mentally should be easier. Now, obviously there's amazing champions, you know, ahead of you that you're going to have to tackle. But they're looking at you in very much the same way. I got to ask you a quick question. Who is your favourite fighter of all time?
I to and fro with this.
Okay. Who is it today?
Today,
Rocky.
do you know what? Right at this moment, who I was watching a lot fight week is Roman Gonzalez, Chocolatito. Yeah, just his style, his aggression, work rate, and just like how he's so calm in the ring and puts his shots together without doing too much. Yeah, him alongside, I'd say, Joe Kawasaki, southpaw, again, come forward, throws a lot of punches. And going into that last fight, I was kind of like trying to blend the two almost. But yeah, I'd say those two at the minute.
Awesome. And if you could fight one of the current champions now, who would that be?
Any weight?
I guess it's better to fight in your own weight. So you can't pick Usyk. He's just a little bit too big.
Any?
It don't have to be a champion, but someone in your weight that you're aspiring to fight.
Oh, if I could fight anyone, if I could be in the ring with anyone, it'd be Bam Rodriguez all day long.
Great
I
fighter.
think he's phenomenal fighter. Special, like, you know, one of them generational talents. I think, yeah, to be in the ring with him that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a pressure fighter, but also a really good thinker and calm in there as well.
Yeah.
So I can see, you know, lots of elements of the way that you go about your business in the ring that's like that, you know, putting that pressure on, continue applying the pressure. My brother actually messaged me after the fight and just said, if Sean had one punch concussive power, no one would beat him at all because he does not stop. He just can't. He just does not stop, and it's great. People love watching someone that just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So I think you would have definitely won a lot of fans over in that. Sean, I've seen the work that you've put in behind the scenes, obviously, and I've got a huge respect for it. Thanks for coming over to the podcast studio today and sharing the journey. I'm sure there'll be people that listen to this back, hopefully, even if it's a handful, your dad maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any one of those who might be listening when this does go out that you'd want to mention in case we haven't mentioned them and they deserve to be mentioned?
God, yeah, the list is endless, really. Obviously, I'd like to thank Carl for getting me the opportunities. Do you know what I mean? He's, ever since I signed with Carl, he's delivered. And yeah, I've taken every opportunity that he's thrown my way, and like I say, it's paid off. Obviously, big thank you to Rendell. He, you know, putting all the hours in the gym. We've been through a lot together over the last few years, ups and downs, and he's always been shouting from the rooftops about how good I'm going to be one day and the potential I've got, and it was just nice to prove that last weekend. You know, I think everyone could see the emotion we had together in the ring. But that was purely because of everything, you know, that we've been through together and what it's taken to get here. You know, it's not been easy, far from easy. Obviously, big thank you to my sponsors, yourself, Rich at FTG Fusion, and Jason at Hallmark Roofing. You know, they've backed me for a long time now, and I wouldn't be British champion without them. No way. Obviously, thank you to Ella, my dad as well. My dad, you know, I remember he used to drive me up and down the country as a kid, boxing and sparring and you know, putting all the hours in when he was working night shifts as an engineer, which, looking back now, you know, working 12-hour night shifts and then driving me to sparring or driving me to fights, that's going to take a lot out of you. So, you know, I love him to bits for that, and I'll always be grateful for that. And yeah, just everyone that supported me, really. Boxing's a tough game, especially when you're getting off the ground, and, you know, selling tickets when you first start out isn't easy at all. And I'm lucky that I had great people, you know, support me from the start. And you know, without them, I wouldn't be in this position now where we're chasing the big fights and chasing more titles. And you know, Rendell always says about how we touched the dream, and I think the dream for me now is to go one more and lift that dream for both of us. So yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome.
Bosh.